Salam, Mabuhay, and Hola. I'm Doc, aka Ron, and I have a really special episode here for you guys today. Joining me on this worldwide tour, someone from the United Kingdom, possibly somebody as one half of a team that I respect the most, possibly the best, not possibly, this is the best wrestling news podcast out there. It is Trish from Trish and Sarah. Welcome.
Hello, Doc.
Hi.
Sound like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, I say, I would have named my show What's Up, Doc, but I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, that's why. That's why.
Yeah, definitely. Um, how are you, Trish?
Good. It's a sparkly April day in the UK, which means it's grey and it's raining. So
That's that you put me in the setting of the UK real quick. Every time I think about the UK, all I can think about is gray skies, fog, um, lamps, that kind of thing. And I just I have a question for you. And my first question for you is actually, how did you become a fan of this silly combat sport that we call professional wrestling?
I guess this is a twofold answer. So I first became a fan in a really strange way as a very young child when I put in. So we used to have like VCRs and you used to kind of just you record things off the TV on tape.
Yeah.
And I'd go in and I wanted to watch. There was a thing in the UK in the very late 80s, early 90s called Ed the Duck.
Oh,
And I
okay.
tried to watch Ed the Duck, and on there was an episode from WWF, and I saw the Rockers, and they were very bright and vibrant and very different, and I was just fascinated. So I got in at quite a young age through that.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I kind of faded out of it. I actually didn't watch for most of the Attitude Era itself at the time,
Oh,
and
that's
kind of came
interesting.
back in right at the end of it. So kind of a different thing. But I got back into it because Portsmouth, where I grew up, was kind of a hotbed for the kind of the UK independent scene, which wasn't much, in 2001, 2002, but that was kind of the main academy, was the FWA Academy. So all of a sudden there was like kind of lots of big shows in our area. We had people coming across from like Pro Wrestling Noah, periods of time later from Dragon Gate,
Yeah.
a lot of the American names from Ring of Honor that became kind of synonymous kind of big names in the industry. The next 2 decades all kind of came through there,
Ooh,
and I kind
interesting.
of just gravitated around there. I went to school with people that wrestled, and then started getting involved in different bits and pieces, and yeah, kind of really kind of twofold. So yeah, I watched the big American stuff, and but really got into kind of the British scene, and then that was aided by we had something called the Wrestling Channel in the
Oh,
early to mid 2000s,
I
which
actually,
had
yeah.
go on.
Yeah, I actually knew the wrestling channel. I knew about it here because of back in those olden days. It's weird to say olden days. They had Wrestling Torrent, and that's how I kind of
Yeah.
discovered the British wrestling scene. Old British wrestling was the wrestling channel because yeah,
And the thing is that it wasn't a big scene at the time. A lot of
yeah,
the two big companies, you had the FWA, and then when 1PW came in the north in Doncaster, that was very much an import heavy promotion and couldn't afford to be an import heavy
uh,
promotion, which is why it's gone bankrupt so many times.
was
But
that
there
the
wasn't a huge scene.
wait, was that the promotion that Birchall came up in? Am I thinking right? Birchall and
FWA was Virtual's promotion, yes.
okay,
Yeah,
and
he's actually from Portsmouth as well, yeah.
okay, interesting.
Another one.
Yeah, for people who don't know, back in the early mid 2000s, virtual, I mean, probably people might know him as the pirate, whereas the guy who was gonna do incest with his sister. He was actually one of the biggest prospects at the time. They were pretty much calling him British Brock Lesnar, and just something I So
He had a heavy push. I don't know if he really had that kind of threshold, but yeah, he went over there, and it was a big thing for at the time. You know, anyone coming from our scene going across to US was seen as like a massive thing,
yeah,
and that was before the scene kind of picked itself up and started to kind of build its own. I don't know, kind of draw in a sense during the kind of early 2010s into the mid 2010s when it was kind of at its height. So, yeah, it was a different. The 2000s were a different era in British wrestling from what followed, and they're
yeah,
kind of the forgotten time.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, personally, because I was thinking about like guys at that time, like say Birchall or Doug Williams, or even if you go a little bit earlier, Jody Fleisch. Like those are the names from like the British scene that people who were online at the time were aware of for the most part. Especially not Nigel necessarily because Nigel wasn't more of a like an American talent even though he was British. But like it's that's pretty cool that you were actually local to this and in watching the independent scene back then because not a lot of stories come out of
We
there.
did a lot of work in it as well. We still do bits and
Oh,
pieces. My husband's
interesting.
a photographer. Done a
Oh,
lot of things around, and we still do the World of Sport reunions twice a year. So we keep an eye and kind of an ear into it, and we still, have still speak to plenty of promoters and trainers and things at different times, but probably not as involved as we once kind of were as it kind of came up on the scene. But it's a funny one because you bring up those names, and I think the four, the other one of the four would normally be Johnny Storm, but
yeah.
maybe one of the guys that's most influential would have been Darren Burridge,
Oh,
who
that's a name I
he
haven't heard
wrestled.
in a long time.
Okay, so people might remember that he wrestled with Colt Cabana in a tag team in 1PW for a while, but he's also a trainer.
Yeah.
He owns the London School Lucha Libre, which trained Will Ospreay. So it's kind of weird how little he gets brought up. But yeah, he was a heavy kind of entertaining guy on that scene at the time as well. I'd make they're kind of the five that most people wouldn't remember.
So you were actually a ringside doing ringside photography, and that's interesting.
Oh,
And you
I
don't
don't
do
do
that.
that so much. My husband does that.
Oh,
No,
your
I'm not
husband does it.
interested. I've done bits and pieces. We've done bits of filming and that. But he does the ringside and the promo shots and stuff,
Oh,
and I'll do kind of all sorts of bits around it.
that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Um, how were you able to actually get in kind of inside like that? Because that kind of space is pretty interesting to me because you're sort of in the business but not really in the business, you know?
Um, through lots of different things. So, you for me it was like I'm a qualified sound engineer.
Oh,
I was doing lots of work with music and different tours when I was much younger, and I was fearless. I think you have this age when you're younger, you have this fearlessness
yeah.
where you just get involved in things and you just talk to people, and you don't have that kind of thing that holds you back. And especially if you're British, you definitely have that later in life where you kind of double guess everything that you do, but you don't have that when you're younger. So if someone offers you an opportunity to do something and you think you can help, you just do it. Or if someone pays attention to something like, oh, look at these photos or whatever, that's how Darren got into it. Was people noticed what he could take from a crowd, and then he got bookings, and then he kind of figured it out. And then you figure out kind of your identity and the way that you do things and what you're looking to do in that. So it's all just a lot of it's just kind of trial by error, and you fall into things.
Mm.
Definitely fall into things. But it's also growing with these people that start out at where you're around them at a young age, and all of a sudden they become and start doing something else in the industry. But for me, it's always just been being in conversation with people, learning from people, and just kind of taking opportunities as they come up. And it can be the weirdest things. I've been in. I remember being in a hall in New Jersey. This is WrestleMania 29 weekend,
Oh, okay.
and getting into like a 4-hour conversation with Larry Sharp, who was the previous owner of the Monster Factory,
Uh, that's
and
it.
then being joined by like the most random group of wrestlers you can think of, like Nikolai Volkov, and then like the original Doink, and just like the most random things. But you just learn and you observe, and you just, I don't know, these things just happen. So you just got to take advantage of pretty much every opportunity you get to try and learn as much as possible. And you know,
Yeah.
and with wrestling, it's always a case of not being too overzealous, because you will be judged on everything that you do, especially at first.
Yeah.
Um, you'll find that, and yeah, just trying to do the best you can. Because at the end of the day, I'm not really. It's so funny we do all this stuff now because I never set out to do anything in wrestling.
Oh.
I always wanted to help the scene, but we never set out to be anything. And even what we're doing now, we do it. I do it because I enjoy, talking to Sarah and doing what we do there. But also
Yeah.
with like the newsletter we got, Social Suplex now, it's all about having this platform that we can allow other people to write on that's not based on clickbait stuff, or we can kind of provide something without it being behind a paywall. It's about trying to change structure and kind of give as many opportunity to others. It's not so much about our name, so to speak. So yeah, I don't know, it's a strange one. It really is like that. There isn't some secret formula to get involved in the business or something like that. But I think you have to, in a sense, be brave and be confident to try and talk to as many people as possible. You learn so much from so many different things. You can learn so much from somebody who's training in a small school in the UK as much as you can somebody who's in a multi-million-dollar TV company. There's always something you can learn, and that doesn't really change, to be honest.
Yeah. That seems to be like universal advice. Is in my opinion, just because always keeping your ears open, eyes open, and mouth closed. That's pretty much universal for any kind of profession or thing that you want to get involved in or something that you want to learn about. Also, I
You
think
can still
people.
keep your mouth open a little bit. You
Oh
have
yeah.
to, sometimes you've got to change things up, and
Yeah.
you've got to challenge things that aren't right. And I think that is something that we've learnt with, especially locally, with things we've seen and that you weren't sure about and that you felt uneasy about and you didn't challenge it. And there was a guilt factor with the speaking out bit of, we thought this might be happening, but you can't be sure. So
Oh wow.
yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that as
Oh
well.
yeah. When it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm like speaking out. Really did have a whole weird big effect on specifically the British scene, and we see this on
Hmm.
like discords and on forums and on people's YouTubes where they refer to the British scene as like ooh tug collar tug and you brought it up, so I was just wondering, like, for someone like you who you were saying you were in that scene and you were afraid to speak up, like how did that like really change the dynamics of how
It's
everything.
not even being afraid to speak. It's
Yeah.
thinking you see things, but you're not 100% sure and you can't challenge them
Yeah.
because of the way that wrestling seems to work. It's difficult in that sense.
Yeah, you don't
I
want to.
wouldn't say the British scene is any worse than any other scene for this. I would
Oh,
say that every scene has its issues. There's massive issues in terms of lack of regulation.
definitely.
I was watching a show on IWTV a couple of months back, and I saw them advertising like, "Oh, come and get drunk with the wrestlers after," and I just cringed hugely because it's the same culture. It's the same culture that led to some of the things in UK wrestling. But the biggest thing is you have to work on regulation. You have to work on having something independent that can help to monitor this, so that it becomes less of a carnival and a traveling circus and
Yeah.
more of an actual workplace. And that goes from the very top down, because we've seen plenty of examples in recent years of power structures still being very much in operation at the very top of the industry. So it's
It's
not just like a British problem, but yeah, obviously that was the part that got blown up the most during that period for sure.
yeah. I personally like whenever like you read these stories about like these people in power and like promotions using their power to make people pretty much bend the knee and do what they want or else they're not going to get booked, and wrestlers feeling like they have to do this or they have to do that to get a leg up on the competition on their competition who are their coworkers. It's just something to me that like kind of makes the whole business of pro wrestling just it gives me the ick, for lack of a better term, because like having to submit yourself to these kind of things, whether it's abuse or however you want to call it, it's just, it's an uncomfortable thing, and I do agree with you that from the top down, from let's say maybe a tower made by titans, that you would hope that there would be something there in place that would protect these people, male or female, or however they identify, just to keep them from being pretty much abused and taken advantage of. But that's
Look, it's a difficult one because that's wrestling structure in a lot of ways. So you're
yeah,
asking people to move away from that, and the more, as we've seen in recent years, you can even look at AEW as a case. The more you push back on kind of a structure, and we want to change this up because you can't carry on like this, the more kind of pushback you receive in the other way. But I think it was a difficult one for us. I think the industry as a whole
yeah,
in the UK had to change a lot after that, and there are a lot of places now that are more regulated, and the laws and the legislation here help with that. But it's still, it's still there. There's still wrestling still has a long way to go in some aspects, and it's probably the biggest challenge. The more you learn and like actually learn about the industry, not just kind of what we may read online or
yeah,
what you might see on TV. But the more you actually learn about it, it can be pretty off-putting.
yeah,
But you have to remember that there are plenty of good people in wrestling as well.
yeah,
It's not just a case of everybody's a scumbag, which I kind of see thrown out there from time to time. But there are plenty of good people who want this industry to be better, want it to thrive, who are responsible for some of the changes, because there are some positive changes as well.
yeah.
So yeah, you have to kind of balance that out.
Yeah, you like to hear any kind of positive move forward. I mean, even if we're inch by inch, at least there's something there. To go back a little bit, as far as your fandom of pro wrestling, what kind of
Hmm.
drove you into that fandom where like you had to sit and watch? Because you're talking about like how you got into like the old the not the old, I get all old now because it was 2001, 2002, and that's old now. But like, what kind of like put you in those shows or put you in the mood to watch these things? Like, what about it just appealed to you?
I was always fascinated by the storytelling
Okay.
and the characters, and kind of how it's kind of like physical storytelling, and how
Yeah.
you can induce so much emotion from something like that. And there's always that element of the kind of it's the same thing that you find with sport, right? So you pick a sports team, you follow them, you
Yeah.
live by the highs and the lows and the ultimate triumphs, and you kind of infuse yourself with all those stories in between. That person that may have been cast aside by another team but becomes a cult hero there, or it was last year with the Mets, who get
Let's
the
go Mets. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. Yeah, but they get the McDonald's mascot throwing out a first pitch, and he becomes like the emblem for the turnaround of a season.
Oh man.
Like stuff like that is something that you can feel in wrestling, and you
Yeah.
can feel those journeys. And to me, the thing I've always enjoyed the most, and I still do, it's probably the one thing that really keeps you watching, is watching people's journeys, watching people go from coming in training schools or in the training shows or first shows, and then watching them progress, watching them kind of become better, whatever it is, whether it's in ring, the stories, the promos, but you get to see their entire journey. You get to live that kind of character journey as well. And I always think that's my favorite part in wrestling.
Yeah. That, you made that up, and like I actually, the first time I saw Brian Danielson was 2003 for PWG, and I had heard, because I was already online by then, so I had heard of him being like, oh, this is Shawn Michaels student, probably the best prospect in the world. And to see him go from like a swap meet in City of Industry, to see him like main eventing WrestleMania, to and all this other stuff, it is kind of like a trip to see it, you know, like to see these people journey from the egg to the fully grown chicken. And
And the thing with Danielson is that he travelled extensively. You know,
yeah,
he was in Japan. He was here with All Star on tours. You know, doing the like the holiday camp shows.
yeah,
And this is the thing that when you look at what's happening with kind of the kind of proxy Cold War going on between AEW and WWE across the world, you know, which is pushed by WWE,
yeah,
you're at risk. We're at risk of losing so much of that and losing so much of wrestlers being able to create their identity based on mixed experiences.
yeah. I've been calling it around like the circles. I've been saying like it's total global saturation of a style, and
Essentially, yeah.
and we're being like told right now like what WWE bought AAA, and now the owners of AAA are saying that they have all the wrestlers have to learn how to wrestle the WWE style, and that to me is like how and why, because you have all your wrestlers. If you look at, sorry to go off on something, but like if you look at like their list of wrestlers who were successes out of NXT, FCW, whatever, they had the previous, a lot of them had the previous experience working around, whether it was Europe, Mexico, Japan, or Canada, and the Indies in America. All of them had this kind of experience where they actually got to find themselves or got to get like a pre-training to see like what they were at and what they wanted to do. But now if we're looking to the future, we're seeing things that like all that stuff, like different styles, different things are all going to be like erased. And it sucks that you hear like the old generation, like even like a Booker T or Bubba Ray Dudley all saying like they're going to learn the right way. And that's like, so if they're learning the right way, does that mean that the way that you guys learned back in the day was the wrong way? And that doesn't make sense to me. It's all propaganda. Sorry.
No, but that's how they do it. So
Yeah.
that is the whole, you know, thing behind this WWE ID program and having to train in schools, is that they will alter the entire system, and
Yeah.
this looks like it's going to be a global venture, so
Yeah.
that everyone comes in fits their way of doing anything. But the more that you make everything kind of homogenous and the same, the less kind of you are likely to be able to grow,
Yeah.
because it's those things that are different that catch on. It's those things that aren't repeating the same story, the same narrative, that catch on to, you know, the global, the culture events. You know, we've talked on our Discord a lot about kind of why Stone Cold took off. You
Yeah.
know, why Tetsuya Naito took off in the middle of the 2010s, even to, you know, the COVID period, and why the Adam Page character took off. It's like all of these things are based on people being able to kind of base in these cultural things and use what they've learned elsewhere to build into their characters. And yeah, we have a situation now where people are getting signed younger and younger and younger.
Yeah.
They are having less experience of travel. They are having less experience on their own scene because a lot of the scenes are decimated. And anytime anybody gets any significant momentum, they're picked up. So what you don't want is having all these bodies kind of sat in warehouses and not actually progressing,
Yeah.
because they come in at a level, but they need to get better in order to kind of be whatever it is you want them to be. I do
Yeah.
think it's a huge threat. I think it's something we've probably underplayed. I think the TKO kind of antitrust stuff made us think of kind of like a false sense of
Security. Yeah.
kind of, yeah, absolutely. And then this AAA news is kind of hit everybody right back down.
And then you keep seeing these pictures of Marufuji with Triple H and WWE at these WWE events, and like you're like thinking like, I think what was it, like maybe like 5 years ago, 2019, they were thinking of All Japan and Big Japan selling to WWE at the time,
Yeah.
and we kind of brushed that off because of the pandemic happened that kind of killed those notions. But here we are 5 years later, and all of a sudden people are working, and Noah's not really firing on all cylinders right now, so they're kind of like in a spot where you could see them selling, and that's kind of like, to me,
I
that's a
don't
little
know.
disturbing.
Noah's ownership is quite solid on the
Yeah.
cyber fight. So
But I mean,
I
there's
don't
that
see them.
partnership thing that's going
Yeah, I
on.
don't see them selling. Could they have kind of induction of money from WWE somewhere? Yes. Could they use other things to kind of create? there's a huge name free agent just wandering around there in a month in 2 weeks. Could somebody help them to pick that up? Potentially. I think
Possibly.
the way that WWE are doing this is not only is it like, oh, we'll connect this to our systems, but it's disrupting the systems that are already in place. So
Yeah.
you make it that your system is the only one that kind of works. And Japan's slightly different in terms of, the reason that they have so much connection with Noah is mainly for the TV deal with Abima and Muto, who, he's the heavy director in that company, is also all linked up. But
If
you can buy a Japanese company, but you would need to have people in Japan to kind of help you. It's not
yeah,
easy to acquire,
I'm more
but that's a lot
seeing.
of a different system.
Yeah, as what you were referring to earlier, I was more referring like WTKO itself giving like Noah cash injection so that their partner Noah would be getting like some of the
Yeah,
big names, maybe like a Stardust Genius. You don't know. Uh,
we just talk around Naito now. We'll just talk around him.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's hugely possible. That would
yeah.
be easily possible, and and they can look at it and they can sense that Noah's on the ascendancy at the moment. And we're not talking New Japan numbers, but we are talking they're in a lot
There's
stronger place than they were 12 months ago.
yeah, they're really
So there's
solid.
momentum there.
Um,
Yeah, and
Kenta,
it's a better show to watch.
yeah, Kenta has been a really solid draw for them on this run. Uh, it's funny.
I don't know if I give it Kenta over Azawa.
Well, yeah, Ozawa is like,
Oh,
man, you know what?
Azawa's his
Ozawa is
matches, like when he's the key draw, they're drawing with him. So it's this big match coming up on May 3rd with him and Kenta. And
the
people
big,
will go with Kenta because it's Golden Week,
yeah.
but you have to keep him hot and give him high profile stuff because he's been a revelation for them.
Oh man, Ozawa, his promos, his attitude, his whole persona. It's like it's not like it reminds me of like Shinya Aoki and Kid Yamamoto back in like K1 Dynamite kind of thing where he's like a punk kid flipping everybody off, telling them like "F you, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. You can't tell me what to do." And I think that does like actually excite the youth fan base. Like the youth are there and they haven't really had this kind of character for a while, like a punk character, and
The, the
it's
easiest comparison is Naito in 2016, 2017.
oh yeah,
You come in and you're throwing the belt around and you know telling everyone how the company needs to change, and that's probably why that idea of Azara and Naito will get thrown out there quite a lot in the next kind of
man.
months, year.
If we
But yeah, and he just fits in. You've had this Noah experience where you've had the same people on top for a long time,
yeah,
and it needed breaking up, and now it has. And yeah, it's drawing them. It's drawing well for them. So
now
yeah, and I
like
think it's also a sign of not having long excursions. It may
yeah,
be less of that in the future,
yeah,
especially as the rest of the world kind of shrinks in terms of where you can go. But this is a guy that didn't go on long excursion.
yeah. I
Came
think
out from their dojo and straight up and in, and they benefit from that.
yeah, he did have a run in the UK. I'm not sure if you were able to see him when he was out there.
Yeah,
Um,
short run. Yeah,
yeah, he there's something about him that's like I there's something about that guy that's pretty magnetic, and I hope he stays in Noah for the long while. Hopefully, I could see Naito coming out there to confront him, and that's kind of like the Spider-Man meme, as you were saying earlier. Uh,
that's a big match. This is the thing with Naito now is that there's lots of big matches that he can drop in and out on, and
yeah,
that might be his path going forward
yeah,
for the foreseeable, without doing the kind of tour by tour wrecking your body,
mm,
making it worse. So, and it's a good opportunity for someone like Azawa.
yeah,
You want these kind of programs that are going to make your name more than just being like, oh, he was the champion. Like, now what do you remember? And a lot of time you don't remember this guy was champion or this guy held this belt. You just remember the kind of matches and programs that actually made you feel and remember something.
yeah,
And that could be one for him.
yeah,
We'll see.
yeah,
We'll getting ahead of ourselves on the Noah front there, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, no. he's a good example of speeding up that excursion kind of period, and how that could be something that they should all consider in future. Stardom is, their development is very quick enough into the main roster now.
Yeah, for
And
Stardom,
the
it's literally
dojo,
like
and
6 months. It's 6 months from the dojo to TV. Even if it's the new
yeah, and
blood, it's
look,
like
there's a benefit of everybody working with the best talent, and getting those reps,
yeah,
going on tour, getting those reps in night after night with the best talent, and that's bringing people through quicker. That I don't
yeah,
think there's huge value in the excursion system so much when you're going to go to the UK, and what you don't want to do is like shot a Rumino and just kind of pick up all the UK bad habits but not actually progress. Or, which is what happened.
yeah.
2G chose to progress, he didn't.
Yeah.
So you can learn by still going. I still think you should experience the different cultural kind of things and pick up the different styles and things. But you aren't going to learn as much going out for a year and a half as you would have done 10 years ago.
I mean, like if I'm gonna talk about the excursions in New Japan, there there is there's like way too people spend way too much time developing, like between like 5 to 7 years. Like if you look at somebody like Jay White, for example, he spent like was it almost 4 years out there working in ROH and in the UK and in Australia and all that stuff, and he came back pretty good. And they're lucky that he was young, but if you look at somebody like Sho and Yo, where they come back and they're like 30, and like if you look at Japan, like people have limited shelf life as far as being stars when they come back at a advanced stage. I know it's weird to say 30 is an advanced stage, but like you come back at 30 and then you still got to build your way back up. And the way that Ghetto has been positioning his young guys, it's only now that you see like people like a Gabe Kidd or Suji, and they're put in those spots right now to actually excel. And I think they're only in those spots because they don't have a choice. But also you got somebody like Goto who comes in, and he's an elder statesman, but he's drawing on top, and it's pretty cool actually. I love that. And I know we've talked about like guys like Goto and Naito who you're associated with as like people that you cheer on and you cheerleader. And my question is, who are your? Hey, I cheerlead them too. People don't know. Like I love when Goto came to America for TNA. I actually saw him and Tanahashi at house shows when they came to California, and uh, he made me a fan then. And yeah, it's cool that, like we were talking about earlier, the progression of seeing a guy from nothing to something to see Goto go from like just a guy on excursion, just a random Japanese young guy to come here, and then to see him go from that to one of the biggest losers on the planet to finally winning the title is just it's a good feeling, you know. And my question is for you is, do you have who are your favorite wrestlers?
Oh God! The thing about this is you will vary your. For me, it's like I think it changes over time because I
Yeah.
think you connect with people differently as you age.
Hmm.
So the way I would connect with wrestlers and their stories when I'm 18 is not the same way
Definitely
that
not.
I do now. Now I'm going grey and nearly 40. But it's like,
I'm
yeah, so
already
it,
40
it
and
has
gray.
changed. Oh, it is what it is. We just have to come to accept it, to be
Yeah.
honest. But yeah, it's changed over time, kind of what appeals to me. These days, I think the Japanese style appeals to me most,
Mm.
and that kind of storytelling. And when that bleeds into American companies, my attention goes across there. But in general, I kind of enjoy people from that style from Japan the most. So, yeah, Naito will probably always be my favorite wrestler,
Yeah.
just because that story and the way that he kind of challenged it, came back, challenged it head on, found something in it, found, a voice, a different voice from where he started, didn't give up on it. And the whole thing of, I don't care, but everybody knows he cares the most is, yeah, I think I always connect to that. It's always been kind of special to me. In that group, Lij with kind of all the different kind of characters in that group,
Yeah.
that was just kind of the height of me enjoying wrestling, I think, at that time.
Yeah.
Then it gets into kind of, I don't really. There's lots of people I like in other promotions that I really connect like to watch. I love watching Elite do their storytelling. I think that's an obvious one. In the UK scene over the years, you know, I loved watching Chris Travis before he passed away.
Oh yeah, he
One
was
of my favorite wrestlers to watch.
yeah, he was a really good talent. He was able to get in there and tell story. People always harp about telling story, but there's a way that he sold that you felt like everything he was doing was mattering. You know, like
He was a great babyface.
yeah,
Like he could yeah, that was where his selling really kicked in. I mean, from the time they came in, you know, with Project Ego, him and Martin Kirby, back in kind of the early to mid 2000s, all the way through to unfortunately when he passed away. And yeah, he was always one of my favorite people to watch.
yeah.
These days, yeah, I like watching Elite. I still like watching Lij. I really, really enjoy watching Mia Watanabe in TJPW
Oh yeah.
because she's insane.
Oh,
I always have a soft spot for Poko Nakajima. I love the other Nakajima as well, who's a troublemaker, but he's still like.
He's still so good.
I still rue. Yeah, I still rue the fact that he's in Gleek now and he's ostracized himself from every other promotion. I love watching Miyahara. Just people like that, really. I'm definitely more sided on that side than I am on the American side these days.
Yeah, man. You think about Nakajima and like you think about like what potential was there if you're at the time watching 2023 All Japan and he's having this run there and you're like, oh, he could make something of this, and then he decides no, and it's so weird. And there's something about that Japanese.
The wrong time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wrong time. They just come through at the wrong time, or they make the wrong decisions at the wrong time, and it costs them. You know, with someone like Chris Travis, he was, in a way, a few years too early. If he came through a few years later, he goes through, you know, he probably gets further on. So sometimes it's just the wrong time. You're in the wrong era. It's
Timing.
It is what it is.
Timing.
Yeah.
And you like so like you were talking about all these different style wrestlers because Miyu Watanabe and all is like to me, if any American booker saw her, because every fan who has seen her gets it immediately. She has big muscles. She has the happiest face. She has this really good happy energy. Pretty much, who I kind of equate her to is Willow, who also is like an undeniable like that she should be the face of the company kind of energy, in my opinion. And it's just like I like that list of people you gave me because it's so varied and shows like you're seeing like you don't have one style that you really see as like this is the specific style. And yeah, man, that's such a good thing to hear. Not to date this, but this week we are coming off of possibly one of the most horrible weeks in WWE as far as PR and as far as WrestleMania goes. Whatever, I didn't really watch it, but I do have to ask you this question. WrestleMania used to mean something to me when I was a kid and when I was a younger fan. So is there a difference between what WrestleMania used to mean versus what WrestleMania has become? As far as what it's become is like a pretty ubiquitous. It's the Super Bowl. It's just, I guess, the big wrestling show that everybody knows about. Is there like WrestleMania when you were a kid versus WrestleMania now? Like, what is your feelings?
I wouldn't even say it's when I was a kid. I'd even compare it. So I went to quite a few during the 2010s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I think the feel of everything is generally different. So when you used to go, you know, and especially after Miami, this kind of became more of a thing. It wasn't just like WrestleMania was a show that week.
Yeah.
And it was like a community thing. So you'd go and travel to these places and you'd go and see as many shows as you could. But also, you'd meet up with so many cool people, and you'd all be able to express kind of how much you just enjoy pro wrestling. Because a lot of people ostracized for it. A lot of people were treated kind of like, you can't show how much you enjoy something. Oh, it's fake, it's this, it's that. And I've never really cared for that. I've always been like, I don't care. Yeah, I watch pro wrestling, I do this, when I'm in work. Like, everybody knows it. So I know, but there's a lot of people that don't feel that way. So it's kind of really cool to be in this community, everyone together. And there's a vibrancy in these towns and these cities that come from that. And that's as much part of it as the actual show.
Yeah.
The shows themselves, they've been very hit and miss for a long, long time. I think there is less focus on kind of people's journeys or kind of like the matchups being good these days. And it feels much more like an infomercial. And I think the other big thing is there's so many alternative places to go for these sort of journeys now.
Yeah.
So if you want to go and experience a week of wrestling and you want to see something that's different, you can go to Tokyo Dome, and it's accessible and it's manageable and everybody knows about it now. It doesn't feel... I don't look at it the same anymore thinking this is the only big place that there is to go anymore. And I think that's what AEW hope to create with All In eventually, if, they're able to continue to do the stadium shows, is you create this kind of alternative place where people can go and congregate and get that feeling. Watching the shows now, I don't feel similar to the excitement levels that you used to in a way. And maybe that's because I'm not invested in their product. That's probably a good reason for it, And I can see when there's good... Yeah, but it's one of the things where you can see, like, they did a triple threat at the end of night one, and I can see why that would appeal to so many people who watch that product, because you know what their triple threats look like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you just you roll your eyes. So I just think, there's so much more choice now that if that isn't the sort of thing you're into and you don't see it that way, that there is so many alternatives now. You can go and do a week in Japan, at the start of January and get the same feeling. So, I don't treat it the same. I don't see it in the same way. I'm sure most people do. It's definitely the thing that most people talk to me about who aren't into pro wrestling, who'll still ask about WrestleMania. And, at the end of the day, it's like any blockbuster, that's the thing that they see on the cinema, on the front of the cinema, so they're going to ask about it. But
blockbusters.
It definitely is far more of an infomercial now, and I don't like how inaccessible it is to most of the fan base now. And you can see, like, if you look at the crowd, we've been watching some of the old stuff that pops up on YouTube and stuff the last few weeks, and if you look at the crowd, you'll see so much more vibrancy, so much more kind of the flags in the crowd and everything like that, for people coming from all around the world. And the current price points restricts that, that it's so much less accessible for people to travel to these shows and to kind of be part of that. And that's probably the bit I dislike most about what's happening with wrestling, is not only is it just becoming more homogenized and kind of, as this proxy war takes over the world, but also it's far less away from the fans. Like, they don't need you. They tell you they don't need you. And we're starting to see a little bit of that with AEW as well. It's like they will keep telling you they don't need you, but they also don't stay hot forever. So you can have, you've got your TV deals and that, but something like TKO, you have to keep driving these numbers because the whole idea is for everything to be kind of incentivized. So, we sell everything to these cities. We want to sell Raw tapings to cities. But you can only do that as long as you keep people. So sometimes the way that everyone is overlooked, I don't think that can last forever. I think there's a bubble burst to come on that. And it's because you've taken everything away from the fans.
It does feel like the fandom is taking out of the hands of the fans, and it does feel like it's a giant infomercial. And when we were talking when we were talking like community, like the wrestling community, and as far as like the WWE fan base, when you look at it, like they have a whole section dedicated to just influencers that they're paying to be in the front row and take up the whole front row. And that's a lot troubling. I mean, sure, AEW does have its influencers, I guess, like, and those like kids that they hired, Big Justice and the Rizzler. But like,
there's always been celebrity elements or social media or like stars of the month being included, but I think there's a huge difference of that to like literally like we have a match and then we spend 20 minutes focusing on people in the crowd that might mean something. Like, it's not a wrestling show. It's a TKO show that features wrestling.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that kind of comes across as of late.
Yeah. And you were talking about the community you felt when you used to go to the WrestleMania events 10 years ago. So this year, actually, I went to AEW Revolution in the former Staples Center. I will never call it the Crypto.com arena. It's so it was Revolution, and my sibling, my sister, she recently came out as trans like a couple of years ago, and when we went to WrestleMania in 2023, they weren't comfortable as far as like presenting female. However, when we went to Revolution, she went and completely presented herself, and what she had intimated to me that we had this conversation personally. She felt like she could and faced no issues, and to me, that means a lot. To be able to, in pro wrestling, like you said, like we're ostracized already by like just general society. We're seen as like wrestling fans are seen like, oh, those are those stupid redneck hicks that don't know anything, they don't have money or whatever, and like you just when we are there, there's a sense of community in the audience, and even though at this current time the company is not hot, there's a community around the wrestling fans, especially Southern California wrestling fans, because this is a big scene here. There's like a history here, and that my sister felt that they could present and feel like at home, and then see themselves with other fans who are also able to express themselves. I always like ask the question you answered earlier, like, are you an in the closet fan or are you out of the closet? And I'm like, when we're finally around our people and able to express ourselves without feeling like we can't, it's like that feeling of community. It just makes you feel like it's freeing. And I love that you brought that up, how you when you would go to those shows, you had this sense of community of everybody that's like accepting of what you are and what you like, and we're all just coming together to watch this stuff. And that's why I like doing the show, is that having the connection. Or whatever differences we have on the outside, we're still fans. We're still people, and this silly thing that we watch is what connects us. Sorry to go so deep.
No, absolutely not. No, well, congratulations first to your sister for feeling comfortable enough to be able to be comfortable in who she is, because that's so difficult in this day and age as it is. But yeah, no, look, a long time ago, I remember a musician friend of mine I taught just saying, the first thing you need me to remember in this job is everyone is still a person. Yeah. It doesn't matter what they've done. It doesn't matter, what they have in the bank. It doesn't matter, anything else. Their ability, they're still a person, and you just treat everybody the same. And the great thing is when you do anything like this, so whether you go to a show or whether you go to, WrestleMania, or you go to All In, or you go to Tokyo Dome, my favorite thing is always the people you meet. It's not the shows. It's not a match. It's not seeing. So it's always been about the people that you meet and being able to kind of grow kind of those friendships and grow your knowledge or whatever it may be. But those are the most fun. When I saw someone actually on Sunday, Remy and Doncaster, when we went to see the Rev Pro show, who was with us in Tokyo. And the first conversation wasn't, oh, do you remember, and it was an incredible match, the Gabe Kidd Kenny Omega match. It was like, do you remember do you remember going bowling after, and like how happy everybody was, and the stupid photos everybody took in the arcade and the roller coaster? Because it's the people that you meet through this that end up being the most value to you. Yeah. And that's what it is to me. It's like, it's those relationships and seeing everybody else have fun. I can just think it countless times I always think back to like Revolution 2020 and the woman in front of us, who it was her first show, and she said, I've never been to a live wrestling show before. And then seeing like her reaction to like the Kenny kick out to the BT trigger at one, and the end of that show, and like the smile on her face, and that's the sort of thing that like, that's what wrestling does to people. That's what other things struggle to do, you know, that you can't replicate, and that's why it still has this hold on everybody that it does.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Trish, I'm gonna take a little break just to make sure that this all recorded. Is that okay? I gotta make sure because this is golden. Hold on. Let me check on my end. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's start off. What were we talking about?
We're just talking about community in terms of going to shows.
Yeah.
That's what you're up to now.
Yeah. Yeah. There is this you telling that story about like you just connecting on like the bowling or I believe I actually talked to Kaze Nirare about like he's a good boy. I like him. He told me like when he traveled to Japan and was big community, when he was able to meet his community of people that he's been talking to, he's like, yeah, it was fun to be able to see these faces that I've been talking to and finally just have this interaction and this connection. And you know, like, because I've been talking to so many people from different parts of whether it be different parts of America or different parts of the world. Like, it's funny how we all have this connection, and that's what I love. And you were talking about like.
I'm going to tell you a Kaze story actually, go. Right? Because I'll embarrass him a little bit, but when I first met him in Japan, he was quite quiet.
Yeah.
And I think he's quite a reserved guy in general. But it was also this thing of, you know, these are new people, you're not used to them, you kind of are nervous in general.
Yeah.
And over the first few days, like seeing him kind of really kind of come out of his shell and progress, and kind of like by the Saturday, like the Wrestle Kingdom night, it was like a different guy. And you could see how much he was enjoying everything.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me really happy. But did he tell you how we got him?
No. How did that happen?
No. Okay. So I was out in Japan last March,
mm-hmm.
and I know that Suzuki is in his shop. So obviously his name is Kaze Nirare.
Yeah.
So I checked his Twitter, and he was in the shop that day. So I didn't tell him we were going.
Ooh.
And we had a few people with us, and I told them, but I told him don't tell him. And he's so obsessed with this coffee drink that he was like looking around for this coffee drink constantly that he missed the time for the shop as we walked in the building. And I was so happy because I thought we'd spoil it. And he only realised when Suzuki shook his hand, and it's the best thing ever. The look on his face was the best thing ever, and it's probably one of my highlights of the trip. And it got weirder because then we went down to Hayao, which it's literally like half a mile away from Pile Driver. And in there was like all the kind of foreigners that were involved with Noah at the time, like Omos and Suzuya and people like that. And it was just like the surrealist thing. And like, smile on his face after, as much as he kept telling me and Andrew we were terrible people, that's really cool. That's probably one of my best memories from that trip this year.
That's lovely.
And it's got, and it's only got a fleeting connection to wrestling in a way, but seeing people kind of be able to kind of come out their shells or kind of become more comfortable and that sort of thing. Oh, God, I love that so much.
Yeah. There's this. So we're talking about like being in the stands and being around fans, and so when I went to Revolution, I went with my sister and my cousin. My cousin actually, my sister and my cousin are giant WWE fans. Like they grew up watching WWE. That's wrestling to them. But we would also go to PWG shows, a lot of them. So since he likes watching WWE and listens to the WWE centric podcast, he sort of had this bias against Osprey. You know, all they do is flips. Every match has a poison rana. What is this? But that Osprey Fletcher match was able to. He told me the other day, like, "Hey man, thank you for bringing me to that show because I'm now a fan. That cage match made me a fan, and
You
it's
have to see these guys. There's always somebody at the end of that kind of WWE rhetoric, and it does come from WWE,
yeah,
where they try and play down that guy on the outside. It was the same with the Elite with Kenny Omega and the
yeah,
Bucks. Exactly the same. Kenny's this, Kenny's that. Kenny doesn't do this. Kenny's. It's like all that stuff is just what they lead, but
yeah,
it's different when you see something in your own eyes. So the
yeah,
best thing you can do, when people talk about, oh, but these people, why did so many people watch WWE, and like, if you have just the only way that people change that is if they see something.
yeah,
For me, it's like with New Japan, I'd watch it kind of not fleetingly, but I'd watch it kind of like in the background and stuff, but I wasn't invested in it until we went to a show in London and this guy walks down the ramp in his stupid silver robe and mask. And I'm like, I like this guy. And that's it.
yeah. I like it's cool to have the it's cool that you and your I'm not sure if your husband is a fan. He sounds like he is a fan. If he isn't, that's
He's
kind
a
of
fan. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
He won't say that so much these days, but
yeah.
no, we met for wrestling. Yeah.
Oh,
So we met at
lovely.
King of Europe 2007. Yeah. Yeah, King of Europe 2007. Was the first show we went to, which was a tournament that was at the Liverpool Olympia, which I think most people know because there was a pretty good Ring of Honor card from there at one point. But yeah, we met at that show, or just before that show, and
Aww.
yeah, that was that. So yeah, we're never getting away from it. I always say this to people: it's like the amount of times that I thought, like, oh, I'm done. Like, you get frustrated with wrestling in one degree or another, or one location of, and you're like, just maybe I won't do this anymore. But you're always gonna get pulled back in by one connection or another. But yeah, no, we met through wrestling. Yeah, he's done quite a bit through wrestling in the last few years, and we've met so many good people through wrestling, more importantly. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that was King of Europe. There was if you look at that tournament lineup, go and look at that. That's it's quite an interesting who's who and who represented who
Okay.
lineup. That even in this day and age, like you think, what on earth was that? That's an incredible looking show. Even I think Claudio was on it with hair, if I remember rightly.
Hey.
So Swiss Money Holdings back in the day. But yeah. So yeah, the wrestling is never outside this house. I will walk in and there'll be the TNA channel on Plex watching some god awful 2009 Impact thing, or even there can be anything. You walk in this house, there can be anything on it. It can be an independent from 20 years ago. It can be you name it. There's always something on wrestling related in here. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're never getting away from it now. I've just accepted it.
It like to have somebody that you can share that with, whether it be a spouse, a loved one, or like in my case, my family. A lot of people they don't really have that. In my a lot of people who we talk to, like they say like how they kind of feel isolated in their fandom because they don't have
Mhm.
all these people to talk to. So like when they finally meet the community and they actually get to blossom, it's just like I tell people all the time, go to the shows. Whenever there's a live show, go to the shows because that's where you'll find like your people. That's where if you can go like on a group and like do. I know like on your Social Suplex Discord, there's like a meetup channel. If you could do that and like say
Mhm.
hey, because I did end up meeting Chris CSW at Revolution
Yep,
also. Lovely guy, lovely
good guy.
guy.
Hmm.
And
Him and his
it's
wife. His
it
wife's from Northern England as well.
yeah,
So that was very cool to meet her out in Tokyo too. But yeah, they're great.
yeah, just lovely man. Handsome, tall guy. Handsome, tall guy. Smart guy too. I'm putting you over, Chris. I'm putting you over. Um, the best. I'm having the best time right now, Trish. You have no idea. This is like this is something that I never thought I would do. Is talking to someone. I know like you don't see it, but
No, I'm no.
I
I'm a
know.
train conductor for Northern England
Oh, speaking of
who's
that,
tried to
well,
do as much as I can, and we try and help as I can. And look, there's times where you talk to people and you think, why on earth are you talking to me? But it doesn't really matter because we're all just
yeah.
I know I can't do that. Someone came up to me and Rev Pro and was like, "Oh, the voice," and I was like so freaked out. It's like, no, no, we're not doing this. Like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Speaking of your voice, Trish, I want to tell you
Oh
this
no.
because I love I love impressions. I love doing impressions. Like I'm not doing it now because it's too
You've no
early in the morning
chance.
for me. But like I wanted to let you know this because I watch wrestling. I watch cartoon. I watch, and I gotta tell you, I know Tony Storm is Australian, but her inflections and the way she's
Oh,
talking, she sounds exactly like
yeah.
you. She sounds like you.
Nah, so here's the deal with that. It's not that. It's that I have some inflections that are more Australasian. Because I was out in New Zealand for a while.
Okay.
Um, so it's similar to that. That's why we have similar inflections at times. But it's not. Yeah, it's not noticeable. The more tired I get, the more Kiwi I can go. But that's where that comes from. Yeah, it's nothing like that. But
Y- Yeah,
no,
you definitely
yeah.
sound like you're from New Zealand. It's definitely something I can hear from your
Oh God, that's
voice.
bad. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, no, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, bruh. I
But I
really
remember
get.
Tony. I remember Tony coming through. I remember Tony at 13. Was it 13, 14? God, I can't even. Like when she was coming through on the UK scene, like
Yeah.
really, really early when she was training,
Oh yeah, you could hear
and
that voice. You
in
could
and
hear that
around
accent.
when she was around, like she'd be around like Infinite shows or whatever. So that's another one, to see where she came from
Mm.
and her journey has been kind of really interesting and pretty cool because that's one maybe you didn't see coming as much. And even when she left WWE, I don't think anyone saw this kind of run coming.
Oh,
So yeah,
y- yeah. You
that's
see
really
her
cool.
growth from WWE to now. It's like it's amazing to see. Like she was already a, in my opinion, she was already a really good performer in WWE, the UK. What happened when she got up to the whatever happened, but now she's like a whole other level. um she convinced she I'm convinced she should be the main event. She should have been the main event when the show I went to, and it's just like
Yeah,
it's
she should have
obvious
been, but
she's a
there we are.
star.
That's
Yeah,
the world. Yeah,
here we
she
are.
is, and there's no argument against it because she has all the numbers and stuff to go with it now. She's
Yeah.
developed that, so she's a huge success story and someone that's really committed to something and made something work in a way that's different. They committed to so many things that wouldn't necessarily anyone else would be able to do. So yeah, no, it's just mad thinking about her as like a young kid and all the way up. But I love that. That's I said that's still something I love the most is seeing where people get to and where they go and how they develop and along the different pathways. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's incredible. Just an incredible performer.
Yeah. So you work in trains, and I know
Hmm.
you've made this you made those jokes like on your own show about like sometimes I do wish all trains had those jingles like the JR line does in Japan because those are so awesome when you hear it just to let you know where you're at, and every different stop has a different jingle to let you know where you're at. Um,
On
do
the
they?
Yamanote, on the other lines, it's
Yeah.
like what we call up and down. So each direction has one. But yeah, yeah, they do.
And thanks to you saying that, I went on down a rabbit hole of the train jingles,
Oh no.
and like I just like uh, yeah, it brings me to like a happy point just to hear those things and just like, and I can't wait to go to Japan and just like sit and listen, and that's that's something that I was thinking about because yeah,
It's
I like
just one of those
trains.
things that when you're there, you hear like when you're there, you kind of it's something you associate with Japan.
Yeah.
When you hear those kind of little things. So like for us, it's like I like to stay in a certain part of Osaka.
Hmm.
Sorry, Asakusa. I can't speak today. And like literally, I can even my head, I can go do 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 do, which is the closing doors at like Kurome Station. I can hear it in my head. Like,
Yeah.
but I actually said when I came back. I said there's a guy that used to be a regional manager that's now head of TransPennine, and when I see him, I was like, when can we have these jingles? It's like, you're powerful enough. When can we have these jingles, Chris? And because he's used to some of the stuff we kind of did, like focus groups during the pandemic, health and safety and stuff. So he used to me for them. So he just started laughing. I was like, look, mate, like I know you have a whole company now. You've got a whole one of the biggest biggest train operating companies in the entire of England. Like, we have these jingles, and he was like, I don't think we're going to do that.
Oh,
But no,
it would be nice.
Yeah.
In California, we have this thing called the MetroLink. There's like a little jingle, but it's the same song every time you stop. It'll be like ding ding ding. You are now in Monrovia Station, and it's
just one of these peculiar Japanese things that, like, I love. It's like when you go into Don Quixote and they play that song 100 times. For the first 5 times, you're like, this must be well annoying, and then you come home and you're still singing it, and then everybody knows it by the second time. But yeah, they have lots of little things like that. It's some of the peculiarities that kind of are so charming in a way. I was watching J League football, and they have a little intro song for the J League this year, and I'm like, what are you doing? What's this? This morning, I'm like, what's this? I don't know about this. But yeah, I love that they try all this stuff. You know, that it's everything has this kind of extra bit of identity wrapped around it in music or sound or look, and in a way that we're very standardized, especially in Europe. For a lot of things, so it's everything's got a mascot as well, and that's it. It's like, what's your favorite mascot? That's like something that's normal in Japan.
The prefecture mascots they're pretty cool. I remember was it Tanahashi and a couple other guys? They were filming like a thing where they were, what was that? I think they were filming like a tourism thing with like the Orange Town or something. But I remember like they had like one of the town's mascot, and whatever happened to the New Japan mascot? Remember him?
Yeah, I don't know. There was a funny video when we were in Otta, actually, of a tourism thing for a Japanese town.
Yeah.
And Tanahashi was singing, and it was like, what is going on? And we were watching it going, I don't know what's happening here. Like, it's been so amazing.
Yeah, he's the ace.
But yeah, that's not unusual. He is, and look, he's so important to them on a business level as well, in terms of all the other little things he does, and they have so many kind of things they're tied into. It's sports with like the baseball tie-ins and stuff, and then the different towns, and they do like kind of the fan bus things that they do in some towns. So it's much more than what you see kind of just watching the show of what he does. He's just everywhere. He literally must be never tired, because he's never not doing something.
He's never not doing something with a smile on his face.
Yeah, like I don't envy that, because that's rough. Like trying to pick yourself up every day is something special, because most of us can't do that. I don't got to work happy every day. We do the best you can, but yeah, the way that he does it, and for so long now, it's that's quite something. And it's going to be pretty emotional next year, I'm sure. The Dome, he's going to cry. We're all going to cry.
I'm hoping he brings back High Energy, because I need to hear High Energy and him strum the guitar again. That's my that's my ace. That's my president. I support my president. That's the only president I support. And we talk about like these jingles and all these music, but like, do you have is there a wrestler's theme that really sticks out to you?
Oh God. This is what happens when you don't get questions beforehand. Naito. I love that song. That is one of the most incredible entrances you can see, especially in the Dome with the lights of the strobe lights going everywhere. It's incredible, and the cheering over the top. And I'm so grateful to have been to Japan and seen that, on top of seeing it in Madison Square Garden and God knows wherever else. In terms of other themes do I really, really like? Oh God, I always like Nakajima's theme a lot. The Kickstart one. I was addicted to that for like months at a time. I'd sit and listen to that. Because I have a habit of finding something and bashing it over and over and over when it comes to music sometimes. That's a really bad. New Japan had a great selection of themes, I think, in the the 2010s. That like every theme practically was like something that was noticeable, and you'd it from the first drop. And that's always the special thing about wrestling themes. You should know it from the first two bars. You should know what it is.
Yeah.
And that's where whatever the Death Rebel crap is that WWE produce now, and you're like, I don't know who any of these is. They're not recognizable. They're not noticeable. It doesn't play into their character. It should all fit, the whole presentation should fit.
Oh, yeah. Those new songs really kill the Royal Rumble. Like,
nobody knew who anybody was.
When Sheamus came out, he came out to silence because nobody knows, like, that's his song. Like, why would you do Sheamus like that? Like, he's one of your iconic guys from the last, like, 10, 15 years, and you give him, like, that? Whatever generic.
And they should have learned, because they had so many good ones in NXT in that period as well.
Yeah.
And I think some of those NXT talent, like the likes of Bayley and that, got more over because the whole presentation and the song and how fun those entrances were. The Finn Balor one. There's so many, but I'll give you my my one that no one ever thinks of, that was like I thought was such a great theme.
Shoot.
That it was a stupid one, right? But this is so Io Shirai in NXT. She had this like rave theme sort of thing.
Oh,
it was like do 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 do. I loved that theme so much. I remember like Rumble 2019. No one had a fucking clue who she was, which was hilarious when you think about it now. But I loved that theme so much. It was just like, it just had something to it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's my silly theme. I do
like how the Joshi themes all have like this sparkliness to them. I don't know how else to describe it, but there's like this like sparkly, princessy, like.
They have the energy that matches a lot of the kind of the wrestlers, and that's what you want. Male, female. It's just, you want whatever theme it is to match it up. I find some incredibly annoying one lately. Can I say that crew one that they have for Action Andretti and Leo Rush? I heard that like multiple times in a row on Sunday as they repeated it for Leo at Rev Pro. And oh my god, themes like that, like, stop it, please, you're killing me. What was the one? The other one that I really liked for a long time was, so Erez had a theme that he was using in Riot Lucha Libre, who used to stream on IWTV, don't do much now, and I love that promotion. And he had a theme there that was that he used on all the big Riot shows, and they'd all have their like little lights up in the air and stuff, and it like has a really slow bit at the start, and then it kind of jumps into kind of a rapper dancey bit, and then they sing the chorus, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite entrances. So yeah, that was the one during COVID that I just thought that entrance was like the best. I'd be telling everybody, I was like, you need to watch Riot Lucha Libre, and they'd be looking at me like I got 4 heads, and like, God, if he ends up in that WWE system, I'm gonna be devastated.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, that one's really cool. So the ones that play into, being part of the show as well and become an experience, and that's why the Joe Hendry thing works, whether you like him or not. Like, it works because people buy into that thing. You've got to be careful not to just be an entrance. That's the danger of that. Like, you become a gimmick, like the Zack Ryder thing or whatever. You just become a gimmick, like people just want to be part of the entrance. Or the Yeet, the Yeet's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it'll struggle for longevity in that sense. But yeah, like the errors at Riot, it's any of the Riot Lucha Libre shows. You can go, even like there's a empty arena match that he had with Vikingo, where the Riot guys are the only people in the building, and they make like the crowd, and that's just phenomenal as well. But yeah, there you go. There's some random ones on your collection.
I'm gonna look that up. Like, I know we've talked about this on the Discord before, about like, what to you makes a good curry plate? I know Coco Ichiban is on your like list. I love Coco Ichiban.
I love Coco. We went to a more Indian style Japanese curry place in Ueno at the end of our last trip, Andrew and I. And they did like a butter chicken with a hot spice.
Ooh.
I don't think I've ever had a hot spice butter chicken in my life, and it was incredible. Depends. So if you mean Japanese curry, then yeah, just the kind of hot spicy cocoa curry rice, and I always have a side of chips because I'm sad and British. That's fine by me. No extra flavor. Oh, I put the vegetables in as well because if you're in Japan, you'll soon find out that bread and vegetables come at a premium, and you start to crave them after about 3 days. But in terms of overall curry, so my overall curry would be a Nepalese, which is full of peppers and spice, chicken curry. Because I live in Manchester, so we have, lots of different restaurants to pick from.
The Nepalese,
very diverse.
they also have like those dumplings, right? Am I thinking right?
No, somewhat, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's more, you don't really see them here with any kind of Indian Nepalese restaurant so much. But yeah, we don't get everything.
Delicious.
Like we get.
I also like Thai curry, like the Penang curry. That's great for me because I like spice. I'm a spicy guy. I'm a spice boy.
Yeah, the more spice, the better. Which is nuts because if you grew up like in the UK when we did like the 90s, spice was like it didn't really exist so much.
I mean, spice did exist in the UK.
Well, in certain communities. So like
every
if you
boy,
lived
every
in
girl, spice up your life.
Oh, for God's sake. I was listening to something on the kind of the social economic impact of Bend It Like Beckham the other day, women's football podcast, and they were talking about that era and how that kind of played into it. And it's kind of interesting to think about like how that changed kind of how women were viewed and how young girls felt at that time, and how that's kind of gone over into so many other things now. As we stopped looking at things being, especially with sport being a man's sport, and it's the same with wrestling. Even 20 years ago, we didn't look at it as something like women could do outside of being like valets or something, and now we look at it, and this year especially, women are leading the way in this industry at the moment especially in terms of if it always looked down upon on in ring quality. Well, this year you can argue that the women in ring quality in big spots is better than some of the men's. We're finally getting to that point where we have that equality in that sense, where you can't use that as these people can't do this as has been used in the past. So yeah, it's kind of funny to think about the acceleration of that in the last 20 years and how that has progressed. And we're not there completely yet, but it's kind of something that makes you feel proud. I feel proud. I watch women's football. I used to play football as a kid, and I feel so proud now. Like all the years of being told you can't do that, you're a woman. Like you're not supposed to do that. That's a boy's thing, or you need to dress like this, or you can't do that. And now you're seeing these women playing on TV in front of 90,000 crowds, at Wembley Stadium, and it's that's empowering. I don't think I'm a huge kind of feminist in a sense of like I don't push these things as much as we should with sometimes with the platforms that we have, but it's still pretty powerful to see these people in these spots and being able to do these things in a way that we can do, and we should celebrate that in a way but we should keep pushing, like the last thing is like, oh, they've got these things and now, that's it. Like, well, no, that's not equality yet, and we're not at that point, so we have to keep pushing. Oh God, I've gone into completely political, social, economic.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great because like when you do think about like this stuff and the whole terms of like equality and women being seen as second-class citizens and me as a person of color, I do also have that, especially right now, where I have to tell my my father-in-law, tell my uncles, tell my elders, like, hey, when you go out, when you see people like in police outfits, don't talk to them, and if you're gonna talk, only talk English. And as far as like women, it's horrible.
The thing is that you have this progress, and then you have these times in history, and we see this throughout, where there's this huge pushback, and it makes anyone that's not, within a certain demographic, incredibly vulnerable. And we just all have to. It's demoralizing because there's only so much you can do, and it's hard to watch history keep repeating itself. But we just have to keep fighting. You keep having to. You just have to keep fighting to. it's your kind of personal battles to kind of be heard and be seen and be treated the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. But I can get this is it's a scary time. I
Yeah.
think it's a scary time globally at the
It's
moment.
it's a scary time, but like with you, I do love seeing at least in the wrestling sense and in the sports sense with the WNBA and women's soccer and women's tennis, and like it's great. It's great to be able to see women put on this, and women's gymnastics. This isn't talked about enough, really, but like besides every 4 years, but like women's gymnastics, you get a lot of these um, girls like inspired by like these female athletes to be empowered. Like they can do it. They can be stars. They don't have to be fitting in a certain mold. And I agree with you. It's great that people aren't being forced into these boxes. And right now, it kind of feels like we're being forced back into a box. But
Yeah, because at the end of the
yeah,
day, what you're looking for is role models that
yeah,
represent you, rather than that you can associate with.
yeah,
And that's what drives people to, commit to things and go forward. And we seem to have that. Yeah, there's a pushback on that, but we just have to do what we can do, and you
yeah,
can't give up on it. And if that means, for me, it's like something as stupid as wanting an open source platform for news or for people to be able to express things without having to be in a certain box. Like that's my kind of little thing where I'm kind of fighting against what's happening and this change in the times and the pace and the way things are working, the influx of AI and everything like that. You have to fight the battles that you're most passionate about
yeah,
in the ways that you can. And it's hard to not be despondent. I think, yeah, especially the last year, we've seen huge cultural changes globally. COVID, has brought on a lot of this as well.
yeah,
It's accelerated a lot of change. So, but yeah, that's why people will gravitate to something like wrestling. They want that escapism. They
yeah,
want something that allows them to feel impassioned without feeling the kind of struggles that they do on a day-to-day basis. Uh, yeah.
because yeah, I do. I use wrestling as a form of escapism, um, as a form of like, okay, so I can just kind of shut my brain off, my world is falling brain off, and just like watch these. Like, what's an example I can say? Yeah, so I could watch like Tanahashi and Takeshita forearm each other in the face and just be lost in that match and just like enjoy the moment, because that's what I look for in wrestling. Just enjoying what I can see in front of me, and just enjoy like this kind of moment, to get away from like the harsh realities of the world. Um,
Yeah.
and I again I want to thank you for that. You're it's so good. So I usually, when I go to dinner, I love to end it on a dessert, and because I have a sweet tooth. So my question for you, Trish, is what is your favorite dessert?
So I don't drink, so I also have a sweet tooth.
Okay.
Um, so you take one bite away, you gain another one. Um, so this one would really depend where you are in the world. So I think there's different things that you can pick up in different places.
Okay.
If a boring English thing, um, probably sticky toffee pudding is
Mm.
probably the nicest English boring dessert. But for me, some of my favorites is just ice cream, and particularly Italian ice cream. So gelato, the pistachio, hazelnut.
Mm. Have
They're
you ever had
probably some of my
spumoni?
yes.
Yes, because I know you've been over to like New York, New Jersey, well,
Hmm.
America. So I was just gonna ask if you like spumoni, because that's I just bought a tub the other day, and I'm already halfway through it, and I'm kind of hiding it from my wife so she doesn't see how much I have eaten of it, because I'm probably gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm like, we
Yeah,
need a poo
no,
over here.
that's probably my favorite. You can get like I'm addicted to ice cream
Mm.
in general.
Yeah.
So one of my friends will always say when I go to visit, and I'm going to visit them next month, it's always tacos and ice cream. They know that that's the way to my food heart. But yeah, Italian ice cream. I don't think there's anything I enjoy
Yeah.
more as a dessert than that. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Next time you're in Los Angeles, I'm gonna give you a list of places, and I'm gonna tell you like they're probably gonna blow your mind. I want to say thank you for talking with me today. I know I took a lot of your time, but I do appreciate it. I do appreciate that you're. I want to tell you. I know you hate compliments. You've told me multiple times
Yeah.
so far, but you and Sarah are the few logical voices of wrestling. the the few logical voices that I hear. One of the few podcasts that I listen to on the bi-weekly that you guys are on, and I want to let you know that I really, when I'm walking my puppies, my two dogs, that I'm listening to you guys, and it gives me like it's like a feeling of like finally someone is saying what I want to say that I can't articulate because I'm a stupid man with man eyes and a mad voice. But there's a way that you guys deliver your news that's like logical. I mean, you're women, so of course it's going to be logical and make sense,
Um,
and be curated in a way
it's one of
that's
them. We really appreciate, how many people have kind of come with us on this journey because
yeah.
we didn't know where it was going. It was Leah kind of said, "You are doing this now," and we said, "Okay, producer Leah, we will do this now." But yeah, we just try and the thing is I think there's always been one way of talking about wrestling,
Yeah.
and I felt like that's been conveyed a lot across the years. So we just want to try and do things differently, and yeah, we put in the work. There's a lot of work that goes into these shows a lot of the time, and yeah, we just keep trying to do what we do, and I don't really have anything else that we
Yeah.
have on that. We're just grateful that people invested in it and are willing to spend their time every couple of weeks with us because time is at a premium these days, and there's
Yeah.
so many of these things. The fact that people do that on such a regular basis,
Yeah.
yeah, that means a lot to us.
Some guy said the only thing real in life are the miles and the money, and so like yeah, the time is also a currency, and it. I'm just happy that you were able to give me some of your time. And did you want to tell people where they can find you, or I mean that
So,
sounds bad. That
first of
sounds
all,
bad. Don't tell people where they
no,
can find
no,
you.
no, 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 we won't do that. But first of all, I thank you for speaking to us for so long, and hopefully people find this interesting. God knows if they do or not, but if it's only me talking. But no, so I'm really bad at plugs. I'm really bad at closing, so this is going to be great, isn't it? But you
Yeah.
can find us, Trish and Sarah podcast on Red Circle, on Social Suplex, or any other podcast hosting platform that you use. You can find us on Twitter at Trish and Sarah. You can find us on our Discord at Social Suplex, where you can come in and argue practically everything with us, to be honest. And you can also email us if you need anything at trishandsarahpod@gmail.com. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and you can even buy our merchandise at Chop Tees, which is nuts, but Dickie is awesome, and I know that that's one business that the current the trade embargoes and the exchange rates and everything like that are a huge challenge to his business. So if you can have a look over at Chop Tees for anything, whether it's us, whether it's Post, whoever it is, that's a business that needs all the support it can get right now because again, these are challenging times.
Yeah. Buy the shirts. Specifically buy the Trish and Sarah shirts. Please.
No, just support Dickie. More
Yeah.
than us, just support Dickie if you can, because those sort of kind of offspring businesses in wrestling are kind of what make everything kind of just have a little more vibrancy, a little more basis, a little difference, things that differentiate it from just being the same things from fanatics over and over again.
Yeah.
They're important.
Thank you so much,
But
Trish.
no worries. So thank you for having me join you.
All right. Thank you so much.